Joe DiMaggio is one of the greatest and most transcendent figures in American sports history, but I bet you don't know the full story behind his journey. What's up, guys? It's Frank from Trove, and for today's Journey to Collectible episode, I want to walk you through the incredible life of Joe DiMaggio, as well as specifically discuss the incredible game-used bat of his from 1933 on the Collectable platform. Joe DiMaggio was born on November 25th, 1914, and he was the son of Italian immigrants who moved from Sicily to San Francisco. Joe grew up in a working-class family that didn't have a lot of money with 8 other siblings. His father was a fisherman, and Joe's dad wanted him and all of his brothers to become fishermen one day as well. But Joe hated fishing, and he didn't like going to school either. He found out from a very young age that his true passion and gift was playing baseball, and that's all he wanted to do. In 1930, at the age of 16 years old, Joe decided to drop out of high school, and he spent his days playing baseball wherever he could locally, which in most instances was just in playgrounds in the San Francisco area. But in 1932, when Joe was still a teenager, he got his first real big break playing baseball. His older brother Vince was playing for the San Francisco Seals, a minor league team in the Pacific Coast League. There was only a couple games left in the season. Their starting shortstop got hurt, and Joe's older brother convinced the manager to let Joe play the last few games of the season to show that he could be a really good asset on the team. In that short stint, they liked what they saw, and for that next year, 1933, he was a full-time player playing minor league baseball. In that 1933 season on the Seals, Joe showed exactly what he was capable of. He hit for 28 home runs, he had a batting average of .340, and he had a 61-game hit streak, which is absolutely insane. Joe had another great season in 1934, and after the season in November, the New York Yankees decided to buy his contract when he was still 19 years old. Joe did play that next season for the Seals as well. He played 3 full years there in total, but in the spring of 1936, Joe DiMaggio officially joined the New York Yankees, and the rest was history. DiMaggio played a total of 13 seasons for the Yankees, and what he accomplished while he was there was truly remarkable. In all 13 seasons, he was an All-Star, he won 9 World Series titles, and he was a 3-time MVP. He also had a career batting average of .325, but the most insane thing he accomplished in his MLB career was the fact that he had a 56-game hit streak, which I believe will never be broken. I also think it's really important to understand the context of the 1930s and 40s. Baseball was the biggest sport in America by far. Joe DiMaggio was the best player in the MLB as the face of the biggest brand, the New York Yankees. Joe DiMaggio was a larger-than-life figure. He was the premier superstar at the time, and words truly can't explain how much of a role model he was for that generation. Back then, Joe DiMaggio was seen as a symbol of the American dream, the son of a fisherman going on to succeed at the highest level, and this is why he was so loved in American culture. And I'll say it again, he was a larger-than-life figure. We saw Hemingway reference him in The Old Man and the Sea. He was referenced iconically in the song Mrs. Robinson. Joe DiMaggio, when he retired from baseball, ended up marrying Marilyn Monroe, who was one of the most famous people in pop culture in the 20th century. On top of all this, Joe missed 3 years of his prime. In 1943, he was 28 years old, but he joined the military during World War II. He reached the rank of being a sergeant in the Air Force, but he actually never went to combat. He spent a chunk of his time during those 3 years in Hawaii, where he was actually playing baseball with a lot of other really good baseball players. But he went to World War II to have a presence, and he played baseball to entertain the troops, and he was also there to boost public morale in general. He returned to the Yankees in 1946, where he went on to play 6 more seasons and win 4 World Series. There's just so many miraculous stories from his career. One insane one was from 1949 when the season was starting up. Joe couldn't play. He had bone spurs. Supposedly, he couldn't leave his bed. He was in excruciating pain. The story goes that he couldn't put any pressure on his heel for months, and when the season started, the Yankees were playing great, but when June came around, the Yankees started to slip, the Red Sox were catching up, and then in late June, miraculously, right before the Yankees were about to have a series with the Red Sox, all the pain in Joe DiMaggio's heel is gone. He wants to play in the series. He plays in an exhibition game at Yankee Stadium. He didn't look great. He went 0 for 4, so the Yankees left for the trip without him, but Joe really wanted to play against the Red Sox, so he flew on his own to Boston to play at Fenway. The Yankees won all 3 games of the series. Joe DiMaggio was absolutely legendary in those games, and the Yankees ended up going on to win 5 straight World Series from that point. And through telling you guys all these stories, I hope one thing is clear. It's the fact that Joe DiMaggio is a legend and he'll be remembered forever, especially in the collectibles market. So now let me give you the details of his 1933 game-used bat that's actively on Collectable. This is the earliest Joe DiMaggio bat in the entire PSA database, and it dates back to August 5th, 1933, which was during that first season that DiMaggio played full-time on the San Francisco Seals. This bat was graded by PSA as a GU8, and it's really important to note that if we're talking about the 1930s and specifically minor league bats, they are extremely rare. Nobody really at this time were holding on to the bats of minor league players, expecting them to be valuable or treasured one day. I also think it's really cool that this bat has green bat rack streaks on it. The fact that this bat even exists in general, the fact that it's in great condition, it truly boggles my mind. Jason DiMaggio's is a highly touted prospect for the New York Yankees, and in early 2022, his first Bowman Chrome Superfractor auto sold for $474,000 before he's even had one at-bat in the MLB. This DiMaggio bat IPO'd on Collectable for $95,000, and in 2022, there has been trades below that IPO value, so when we're talking about this incredible piece that Joe DiMaggio used during his first breakout season in the minor leagues, and we compare that price to something like Jason DiMaggio's prospect card, a player who's never played on the field in the MLB, and a player that I highly doubt ends up having the legacy of Joe DiMaggio, it makes me really believe that this area of the collectibles market is underappreciated. In August 2021, we saw a bat from Joe DiMaggio's last game sell for $408,000, and on top of that, even before the hobby boom over the last couple of years, in February 2020, we saw a Lou Gehrig bat sell for over $1 million. When I look at this Joe DiMaggio bat as effectively being from the beginning of his real baseball career when he got started in the minor leagues, I really don't see how it could get cooler than this. So we appreciate you guys tuning in for this episode of Journey to Collectible. Make sure you download the Collectable app because this is where you're going to be able to buy and trade shares of all these incredible items, and we will be back next week for another awesome episode.